Do, 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 Hello, welcome back to the James Rambin Reviews for yet another episode. In today's episode, I'm actually going to be reviewing for you a sitcom for a change because I recently finished watching Flight of the Concords tonight, and I do give myself time to process it because I've been watching it for the past couple of months off and on, and I never really decided to review it until now because I finished it just today, obviously, and this is not a planned April Fool's joke. It just so happens that it's April now and we're doing this video sort of thing. So it's definitely all like that. I'll just give you a bit of context here. So, The Flight of the Concords is a series I've heard of in passing, not too much, because this is not the type of sitcom where you go, oh, that's the Friends, that's The Office, that's the Big Bang Theory, that's Seinfeld. This is a pretty underrated series, and it did obviously see success to be able to have two seasons, but it's not the first sitcom that comes to mind, and definitely all of that. I mean, I even remember when I was back in New Zealand, I was watching like Taika Waititi's films, but never Flight of the Conchords, and so this was my first time watching the series as a whole. And so there's definitely all of that. So if you want to understand what the show is about, and yes, I will be getting into details about the plot of this series and stuff like that. So if you haven't watched this, go on to Now TV, and I've got the IMDB page up of this series because it looks better than actually the Now TV page that's up. But if you're in the UK, go to Now TV and watch it. It's really good. I really recommend it. So there's definitely all of that. And so, what this show is actually about is you have these band members called Brett and Jermaine, and there's a manager called Murray. They pretty much are trying to figure out how to make their band successful as New Zealanders in America. And that is probably the most basic way to describe this. And so, you have season one with 12 episodes and season two with 10 episodes. And so, how did I actually think about this show? So, I'm going to be honest into saying that this is one of the most unique approaches to a sitcom gimmick, as it is not like Americans. There is Americans in here, but you've got New Zealanders, so there's more authenticity, there's more style, and there's more approach. The approach is more authentic, and it's not just like it's not. It gets predictable the more you watch it, obviously, because of a certain way they do it. But it's the way that it's all constructed that you're just like, yeah, I don't remember Friends being like that. I don't remember these other shows being like that. So it has this unique style to it, and it's just really, really good. And I will say that the first few episodes do take a while to get going, obviously, because you're trying to settle into this new series, or this new series to me at least when I was watching it. So there was that. And just as my one of my favourite episodes, there's a lot of favourite episodes I have in here actually. I don't even know if I have a favourite episode to begin with, but there are episodes in here where they're trying to play these songs. There's like three people in the crowd and they start leaving, and that's one of the really good things about it. I just think Brett, Jermaine, Murray, there's also this other character called Sally. There's these other characters that come into the mix. They all bring their own, little unique fun to the series. There's even an episode where they literally bring in one of the New Zealand prime ministers, and it's a really fun laugh. And Murray's like, "I've got the New Zealand official government looking after and making sure you're making this band successful." And there's these things, and there's also even points where they actually hate the manager so much so that they have to try and survive as a band without the manager, and that was in season two. So there is that. That episode is really, really good. And then when they start getting, there's also this other episode where they have like, they're in this set and they actually look like, people from Lord of the Rings. And there's these jokes from these characters like, are you from the Netherlands? Are you from Atlantis? Are you from Zootopia? Like, there's all that kind of thing. We're like, oh, why are they in here? Why are these people in here? But you also have to mention that the songs in this are very, very unique because this is actually the way they would do it. Like, there'd be like rap songs like Hippopotamamus, Battle like Flasherus, da 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 this, all that. And then you would go from that into like David Bowie and like these big rock songs. And so there's a lot of musical, passion that was put into this show. And none of it's CGI. This is actually practical effects. And so they would show like these costumes and there would be a set design and they would move it around, and because you're doing this in 20 minutes, it just flies by and you're having a really good time. And especially as you watch the show more and more, and then let's get to this right now, the final episode where you start to see how they get evicted and they become homeless, and it's like, oh no, there's all this happening, and then they have to turn into a Broadway musical. So then it becomes this thing where they're like, oh no, what's our last thing we can do? So they pretty much do this entire musical Broadway showcase, and obviously I cannot show this on the channel because it is, copyrighted material. I do not have the rights to it, so I'll just describe it right now. So what happens is you've got Brett and Jermaine, and they are trying to, pretty much pay off this rent and all that. But because they're from New Zealand, they forgot that they cannot, afford things because they think that everything should be paid in New Zealand dollars rather than American dollars, right? So it leads to all of this. And then the Broadway musical where it showcases their entire life, and there's all of this stuff which is really funny. And the other thing about the show is when they try to get the girl, but it just always turns a new leaf. It always goes another direction, where you start to see Jermaine being with a girl, and then Brett's with a girl. They go on the same date. It always ends horribly, and a lot of comment. Well, I would say commentary, but definitely this is a very very 2000 show, because you know that it's getting a bit edgy. There are points in here where it gets really edgy, and it gets to like this really, it's from another time period. So they joke about whatever, they can. So they're like, you know what, who cares if we're gonna offend people? Let's just joke about everything, because they want to express what it feels like to be immigrants in New Zealand. So there is a little bit of commentary in here about how, oh, imagine being an illegal immigrant, imagine being horrible, and imagine being from New Zealand, and there's all of that. So honestly, out of 10 here, I'm going to give this show like a solid 9 out of 10. And the reason why I say that is because you have the episodes where it takes a while to get to the gimmick and get to what it's trying to do, or it just, there's the first episode where it launches right in you in, and you're like, oh no, what's happening? And then it takes about 3 or 4 episodes to kind of get into the groove of it. And I was laughing non-stop for this series. I was absolutely having a good time with the show, and I would recommend it because, as I said previously in the start of this video, or earlier in this video, right, this is a sitcom you don't, immediately go to and watch. It's actually, a different kind of show, and it's not like a show that's been running for years, obviously, because it's only got 2 seasons. And just as a fun fact as well, they never did a third season of this show, and I am really mad. I'm really mad about that because I wanted to see more of this, but I can understand why. Like, there could only be so much they could have done with this concept. So I'm done gushing about Flight of the Concords. I mean, the intro, the dun 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 dun. Oh, that's good. And then how it flashes between Monday to Friday to Sunday and all that, and they're not really doing anything. There's no progress. There's so much you can say about this show. So I would just say that is how I felt about the show as a whole. I would say that season one gets better later on, and season two I think is probably where the ideas start to flow a bit faster. And so there's definitely all of that. So there's just so much we could have said here. So bye 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 bye. This is not an April Fool's joke, just happened to be an April.